Greetings. My name's Ron Wotilla. Welcome to Take a Swing. Today we have the pride and joy of Billings, Montana, Dan Pearson joining us, who's in his third year of coaching professionally. Dan, welcome to Take a Swing.
Hey, Ron. Hey, good to see you. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, we obviously appreciate you giving us a bit of time. Let's talk a little bit about your story. Played at Carroll College in Helena, Montana. Cut your teeth in at the University of Calgary as an assistant coach. Go Dinos! I've got your headshot here from your time with UC. I'm a big fan of that logo, as you
Yeah,
know.
that's a good one. Yeah, of course.
And then you made your move over to Europe and started coaching professionally in England. Moved into Germany as an assistant, now head coach in the Danish league. Dan, one of the things that I've mentioned to you that we do with all of our guests is we share the framework with folks and say, hey, what catches your attention? So over to you on things that you're curious about in terms of the impact on your coaching performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so first and foremost, I was looking through some of the previous podcasts, and when I was thinking about what to speak about, I mean, anything of mastery, there'd be a little bit too much hubris there because I'm clearly the youngest guest you've had on so far, and so the most relevant thing for me is looking in the realm of personal development because as a young coach, I mean that is the name of the game right now is how do I get better day to day because there's no mastery at this point yet. And so kind of when I looked at the framework, the place that caught my eye on a professional level, but specifically in a personal space too, is the personal mission side of things. And kind of categorizing that in the be strategic, I think those two things go hand in hand. So the personal mission is functionally the why, and then the being strategic, the plans to build that out is the how of life. And so kind of building more into daily development systems and strategies to end towards a larger goal for me. And so I think those things have always been areas for me of interest. I have my master's in organizational leadership and a concentration in servant leadership. And we got into the early kind of psychological literature on some of these things. And you look at someone like Nietzsche saying, he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. I think you see Frankl taking that a step forward, especially as he moves into the will for meaning and his development of logotherapy, starting to give us some early groundworks for stuff that is good physiological data now, which is essentially the more coherent and deep and aligned our personal purposes, the better we are able to physiologically hijack our reward systems. And so it plays into the resiliency factors. So knowing what exactly it is we're pursuing helps us pursue it in a more resilient manner.
And Dan, tell me, maybe how much of that concept of knowing your why, your personal mission, is around learning from others. You talked about doing some homework, right? Versus the experience, like of just experiencing coaching. Like, what's the breakdown? 50-50, 70-30? Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that realistically, there's like when we think about personal well-being, you're going to be speaking about the psychological, the emotional, the physical. But I do think that there's something that undergirds all of those, and I put that in a spiritual / religious camp. There's an ethics principle that sits below all those ones. And I've just always found that when I've grounded myself in the deepest form of what that might be, that all those other 3 points of alignment have been healthy. And so for whatever reason, basketball and sports and leadership has been a place where that intersect has happened. But I don't think if I didn't have that more fundamental ethical side, again, however we want to frame it, if I didn't have that, I don't think I have the drive in the same way. And so from that side, that's all experiential. But I would say that there's a lot of people in the personal life and people that I've read that have kind of directed me towards those experiences.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
And tell me a bit about how you have the discipline or build the practice in around checking in on
sure.
how you're doing in terms of showing up as the best version of yourself.
Well, and I think that's kind of the that ends up being the personal strategy side of things, right? So that's your how. after kind of spending a little bit of time over the last couple of years of building out what would be effectively a personal mission statement, and understanding of, if I fast forward 80 years, what gives me a lifestyle that is worth living, and how that kind of compounds each and every year to each and every day, there became a process of building out a daily strategy. So I do.
Well, as I've said to you, your journey is tracking a little bit like some friends of mine, Nick Nurse and Chris Finch, who I had the good pleasure of working with during my time with Great Britain basketball. Started in England, went to Europe, G League. So I know there's a lot of us that are hoping you're on the same trajectory if that's what you want. And the other thing I'd say, Dan, that really captures my attention is we haven't talked about coverage of a ball screen or where your hand is on the ball when you're shooting it all here. I mean, I think the message to young coaches in particular is, if you're really going to lean into this, you got to take care of yourself first and build some foundational pieces.
Yeah, and I think we talk about on the court from strategic side, we talk about things that scale. So if we teach one thing here, and that also ends up teaching 3 things down the line, that's an efficient approach. I think in life, if you can find things that scale, so things that you're ultimately seeking after in other areas, but then also you get on your day-to-days, that's at least a very naive approach to a good life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, the crowd has spoken. They think you did a fantastic job. Dan, thanks for joining Take a Swing.
Thanks, Ron.